There is a book that has spanned centuries, surviving empires and cultural changes. A text so enigmatic and powerful that it arouses fascination and fear in equal measure. The Book of Revelation. Within its pages, there are not just stories, but prophecies. There are not just symbols, but messages that echo through history and reach the present with an urgency that is impossible to ignore. Why do these words remain so relevant? Perhaps because, unlike other ancient texts, they are not merely accounts of the past, but warnings of the future. A future that, for many, is already knocking on the door. And here's something curious. Did you know that the figures and events described in Revelation, such as the white knight, the red horse, or the yellow horse, are interpreted in completely different ways depending on the context? Some see them as signs of hope, others as omens of destruction. But the truth may be much deeper than we imagine. What would you do if you realized that the signs described in Revelation were already happening around us? More importantly, how would you react if you knew that these prophecies had direct implications for your life? This video is not just about religious interpretations. It's about how these messages connect to the chaos of today's world. Wars, social crises, inequalities, and how they can shape the future. Many ignore these prophecies because they seem distant, almost unreal. But what if this was part of the plan? What if the greatest trick of chaos was to make no one pay attention to the signs that warn and prepare us? There is something deeply unsettling and at the same time fascinating about this thought. Today, we will explore the most powerful and transformative messages in the Book of Revelation. Let's analyze the meaning of each prophecy and understand how they talk about the human condition, our choices, and the challenges we face every day. Before we continue, a question for you. What's scarier, knowing something inevitable is coming or living without knowing what's ahead? This is the dilemma that Revelation presents us with, not as a text to scare, but as an invitation to preparation, discernment, and reflection. It is no coincidence that so many events in the world today seem to resonate with the messages of prophecy. Wars and conflicts, natural disasters, spiritual and emotional crises. All of these things lead us to reflect on what really matters and how we can prepare for what's to come. This is not a simple answer video. It is a journey to explore the deepest mysteries, those that challenge our most deeply held beliefs and invite us to see the world differently. Because in the end, prophecies are not just about what might happen, but about how we choose to respond. Prepare to discover not only what Revelation reveals, but what it demands of each of us. Because these messages are not just a report of the end, but an opportunity for new beginnings. So, let's dive into this journey together and unravel the mysteries that shape our present and our future. Before we continue, I want to share something with you. Many who follow our reflections have not yet subscribed to the channel. If these messages have made sense to you and contributed in some way, consider subscribing and leaving a like. These simple gestures help spread this message to more people and keep this space growing, allowing us to continue bringing content as profound as this. Let's go on this journey together. Since the first texts recorded by humanity, the relationship between man and the divine has been a constant. Ancient people sought explanations in the heavens for the mysteries of life, from the stars to natural disasters. Yet few texts are as enigmatic and universal as the Book of Revelation, which not only offers a vision of the future, but also an invitation to a deeper relationship with the spiritual. When we talk about religiosity and spirituality, we are addressing two fundamental aspects of human existence. Religiosity refers to external practices, rituals, celebrations, and symbols. Spirituality is more intimate, connecting the individual with something greater, be it God, the universe, or the purpose of life. Both dimensions are found in the messages of Revelation, challenging the reader to seek something beyond the visible. Written around the end of the 1st century, the Revelation of John is more than a text about the end of the world. It is a letter sent to 7 churches in Asia Minor, located in what we now know as Turkey. These communities faced persecution under the Roman Empire, and the book was written to encourage them and remind them that earthly suffering was not the end of the story. At a time when professing the Christian faith meant risking one's life, the apocalypse was a symbol of resistance and hope. The central messages of the text are not just about destruction or judgment. They also speak of renewal and a greater purpose for humanity. The metaphor of the New Jerusalem, for example, represents the final restoration, where suffering will be replaced by eternal peace and full connection with God. This idea reflects a crucial aspect of spirituality, the search for transcendence and renewal. Throughout history, several crises made people turn their attention to the apocalypse and reflect on their spirituality. A striking example was the Black Death in the 14th century, which devastated Europe and left millions of people dead. During this time, many believed they were living in the last days described in the text. Suffering raised questions about the meaning of life and awakened an intense religiosity in search of answers. More recently, the COVID-19 pandemic also reignited these reflections. A Pew Research Center report published in 2020 revealed that, in the United States, about a quarter of the population began praying more frequently during the pandemic. The search for spiritual answers was not limited to a specific religion, but reflected a global need for hope amid uncertainty. These events show how profound crises often lead us to look beyond the tangible. Revelation, with its symbolic language and promises of redemption, offers a powerful framework for interpreting these moments and finding meaning. The messages of Revelation invite us to reflect on how spirituality can transform the way we face the challenges of the world. For example, the text mentions the patience of the saints, a reference to perseverance in the face of adversity. This idea reminds us that spirituality is not just an individual pursuit, but also a practice of collective resistance, a way of finding strength in the midst of life's storms. This spiritual connection is something many people experience in times of crisis. Studies show that people who practice meditation or prayer regularly have greater emotional resilience. Research from the American Psychological Association highlighted that spirituality can help reduce levels of stress and anxiety, especially in times of great uncertainty. We live in a time marked by uncertainty, with climate change, social inequalities, and global conflicts dominating the news. The Book of Revelation, despite being written more than 2,000 years ago, resonates with this contemporary reality. It challenges us to consider how human choices impact not only our lives, but also the world around us. The spirituality described in the text goes beyond religious rituals. It is a call to a life of purpose, where our daily actions reflect divine values. The crown metaphor in Revelation, for example, is not just a symbol of victory, but of spiritual achievement, something achieved through faith, perseverance, and connection with God. In Christianity, this connection is often symbolized by prayer. But even outside the religious context, the practice of seeking something greater, whether through contemplation or service to others, is a reflection of how spirituality helps us navigate difficult times. Ultimately, what Revelation offers is a choice. Live a life guided by spiritual principles, or lose yourself in the distractions and temptations of the world. This choice is deeply personal, but it has universal implications. How do you choose to deal with life's trials? How do you find meaning in a world filled with uncertainty? The religiosity and spirituality presented in Revelation are a powerful reminder that we are not alone in our journey. Even in the darkest moments, there is a light that guides us, as long as we are willing to look for it. Perhaps, more than ever, this message is what we need to hear. After all, spirituality is not just a practice. It is a path to transform chaos into purpose and suffering into hope. With this, the question that remains is, how do you choose to respond to the call of the spiritual in your life? The concept of good and evil is as old as humanity itself. It permeates all cultures, religions, and philosophies, shaping the way people understand their choices and their consequences. In the Book of Revelation, this duality is a central force, represented by figures, symbols, and events that transcend time and space. This vision is more than a simple clash between two opposing poles. It is a reflection of the complexities of the human condition. At the center of this narrative is the struggle between what is fair and what is deceitful. The White Knight, for example, is a figure that arouses both hope and suspicion. In Revelation, he appears riding a white horse, wielding a bow, and wearing a crown. At first, he appears to be a symbol of triumph and justice. However, the absence of arrows in his bow and the fact that he left winning and to win led many to question his intentions. Was he a savior or a deception in disguise? This ambiguity is an invitation to reflect on the many faces of power and leadership. Throughout history, good and evil have often presented themselves in confusing ways. Charismatic leaders, for example, may be seen by some as saviors, while others see them as manipulators. This complexity reflects the White Knight's own duality. Not everything that seems fair immediately stands up to deeper examination. This lesson is timeless. True justice is not hidden behind appearances, but is revealed in actions and intentions. Another example of this duality in the Apocalypse is in the other horsemen, such as the red horse, which represents war, and the yellow horse, associated with death. These figures remind us that evil does not arise in isolation. It often feeds on our own choices and divisions. Wars do not start out of nowhere. They are the result of human decisions, conflicts of interests, and failures to seek peace. Likewise, evil in our personal lives can arise when we set aside ethical and spiritual values. One of the most intriguing characteristics of this struggle between good and evil is its presence both outside and inside each of us. In the external world, we see this battle in armed conflicts, social injustices, and environmental destruction. Internally, it manifests itself as doubts, fears, and impulses that take us away from our principles. Revelation, by presenting these images, challenges us to look within and identify our own internal struggles. Modern studies in psychology also support this view. Research shows that a large part of our daily decisions are influenced by an internal conflict between our moral convictions and the temptations of convenience or selfishness. This internal conflict is, in many ways, a continuation of the battle described in Revelation. When we are faced with difficult decisions, we are dealing in a micro way with the same duality that shapes the macrocosm. The Bible not only recognizes this struggle, but also offers tools for dealing with it. For example, in Matthew, Jesus warns about false prophets who present themselves as sheep, but who are actually wolves. This metaphor is a powerful way to remind us that evil rarely presents itself as something explicitly evil. Instead, it disguises itself as something desirable or convenient. This is a valuable lesson for both spiritual and everyday life. We need discernment to see beyond appearances. The duality between good and evil is also a reminder that our choices have consequences. Revelation shows this vividly, with every seal, trumpet, and cup bringing judgments that are the result of human actions accumulated over time. This principle echoes in our own lives. When we act selfishly, we eventually face the consequences of our decisions. On the other hand, when we choose what is fair and good, we create a positive impact that can resonate in ways we don't always realize. In the spiritual context, this duality calls us to action. It is not enough to simply avoid evil. It is necessary to actively seek the good. This means fighting for justice, practicing compassion, and living so that our actions reflect our highest values. Revelation shows us that God is not passive. He is powerful, transformative, and unshakable, even in the face of the greatest challenges. One aspect that cannot be ignored is the hope that this duality offers. Despite all the chaos described in Revelation, good always prevails. This is symbolized by the figure of Christ as the Lamb, who overcomes evil not through brute force, but through sacrifice and love. This message is deeply comforting. No matter how intense the battle, good is inherently stronger because it is grounded in truth. The duality between good and evil presented in Revelation is not just a theological theme. It is a reality experienced by all of us, daily. Whether in decisions big or small, we are faced with choices that shape who we are and the impact we have on the world. Revelation reminds us that even in the midst of the greatest darkness, there is always the opportunity to choose the light. That's the true essence of this struggle. It's not just about what we face in the outside world, but about who we decide to be while facing it. Materialism is a striking feature of our society. Since the Industrial Revolution, when consumption began to expand like never before, to the present day, in which the incessant search for material goods defines much of our choices, the desire to accumulate wealth shapes not only economies, but also human values. The Book of Revelation, written more than 2,000 years ago, addresses with impressive precision the dangers of a life focused exclusively on materialism, warning about the spiritual consequences of prioritizing what is temporary over what is eternal. In Revelation, the fall of the Great Babylon is presented as a landmark event that symbolizes the collapse of a system centered on luxury, power, and the idolatry of consumption. Babylon is not just a physical place, but a reflection of a culture that excessively values material riches while ignoring spiritual principles. The description of its destruction, in which kings, merchants, and sailors lament the loss of their sources of wealth, highlights the fragility of a system based on accumulation and ostentation. This passage resonates in contemporary society, where rampant materialism is often seen as an indicator of success. If we look at the world today, it is easy to find parallels with this criticism. Modern materialism is fueled by the fashion industry, technology, and rampant consumption. For many, a person's value is directly related to what they own, from the car they drive to the brands they use. However, this lifestyle comes at a high cost, not only for individuals, but also for the planet. The search for more material goods contributes to the depletion of natural resources, climate change, and social inequalities. A practical example of this impact can be seen in the fast fashion industry. This business model, based on the mass production of low-cost clothing, generates billions of dollars in profits, but at the expense of exploitative working conditions and an alarming amount of textile waste. Data from environmental reports shows that millions of tons of clothing are discarded each year, often without being recycled, which demonstrates the direct effect of excessive consumerism. The Apocalypse, when narrating the destruction of Babylon, invites us to reflect on the transience of what we have accumulated. He reminds us that material riches, however much they bring temporary comfort, have no lasting value. This message is reinforced in several other biblical passages, such as when Jesus asks, "What good is it for a man to gain the whole world if he loses his soul?" This question remains as relevant today as it was in the first century, especially in an age when the focus on materialism often leaves aside human and spiritual connections. If this content is making you reflect, take the opportunity now to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps a lot to strengthen our community and bring these important messages to more people. We count on you to continue spreading this purpose. Social inequality, a direct byproduct of materialism, is another widely addressed problem. In Revelation, the image of the rider on the black horse carrying scales illustrates economic disparity and injustice. While some enjoy abundance, others struggle to survive. Today, this reality is evident in data such as that from global organizations that show that the world's wealth is concentrated in the hands of a small portion of the population, while billions live in poverty. This inequality is not only economic, but also moral, as it reflects collective choices that prioritize profit over common well-being. Another aspect of modern materialism criticized by Revelation is the idolatry of success, symbolized by the crown that the white knight receives. This crown, in essence, represents authority and achievement, but it raises the question, at what cost are these victories achieved? In today's society, we often sacrifice time with family, health, and even ethical principles in the name of professional and financial ambitions. However, the biblical text reminds us that true victory is not in external achievements, but in a life guided by purpose and spiritual values. Furthermore, materialism often brings a spiritual void that is difficult to fill. Studies show that despite the increase in consumption, global happiness is not growing at the same pace. Research carried out in developed countries indicates that, after a certain level of income, an increase in material possessions does not significantly improve emotional well-being. This suggests that the true meaning of life cannot be found in things we can buy. Revelation calls us to resist the temptation to look to materialism for the answer to our deepest longings. He invites us to invest in something that is eternal, rather than clinging to things that are ephemeral. This doesn't mean we should completely abandon material possessions, but that we need to put them into perspective. They should serve a greater purpose, rather than becoming the center of our lives. A practical way to apply this teaching is to adopt a simpler and more conscious lifestyle. This may mean consuming more responsibly, helping those in need, and valuing experiences and relationships over objects. Small choices, like donating to charitable causes, dedicating time to volunteering, or simply reducing waste, can be concrete steps toward combating the effects of materialism. Ultimately, the critique of materialism made in Revelation is a call for transformation. It's not just about recognizing the world's problems, but about acting differently. The text challenges us to reflect on where we put our hearts and reminds us that, in the end, what really matters is not what we have, but who we are. It is an invitation to abandon the superfluous and seek a life guided by purpose, where spiritual values are the basis of all our choices. Internal conflict is one of the most challenging battles we face. Unlike external problems, it occurs silently, deep within our minds and hearts, shaping our choices and profoundly impacting the way we live. In the book of Revelation, this struggle is represented by symbols and events that not only describe a global scenario, but also resonate within each individual, reflecting the internal tensions we face daily. The Apocalypse presents us with powerful metaphors, such as the White Knight, who symbolizes victory and conquest, but also carries an enigma. Would he be a savior or an illusion in disguise? This ambiguity resonates with the dilemmas we face in our lives. How many times are we faced with choices that seem correct, but that, when analyzed more deeply, reveal dubious intentions or unexpected consequences? These internal dilemmas constantly challenge us. For example, we are often led to question whether we are acting out of ego or for a greater purpose. When we seek success, is it to help others or to feed our vanity? These internal conflicts are a reflection of a duality we all carry, the tension between our spiritual values and ego impulses. Modern psychology offers valuable insights on this topic. Carl Jung, famous for his shadow theory, described the hidden side of our personality as an essential part of the self that needs to be confronted to achieve emotional balance. In parallel, the Apocalypse challenges us to face our inner knights, those parts of us that fight for control and can lead us down paths of destruction or redemption. A clear example of this is the red horse rider, which symbolizes war and conflict. Although the text refers to external battles, it also points to the internal wars we fight. Fear, envy, and resentment are often the weapons we use against ourselves, creating divisions in our own hearts. When we don't resolve these conflicts, they can manifest as anxiety, anger, or even isolation. Another important aspect of internal conflict is the constant battle between fear and faith. In times of uncertainty, it is natural to feel fear, but Revelation reminds us that faith is the key to overcoming these moments. In the text, we see that those who persevere even in the face of adversity are rewarded with the crown of life. This teaches us that although fear is inevitable, it should not define our actions. Instead, we must seek the courage to act on our principles. These internal battles can also be seen in the context of materialism. Revelation criticizes the idolatry of success and riches, a theme that connects directly to our inner desires. How many times have we let ourselves be carried away by the pressure of accumulating possessions or achieving prominent positions, only to discover that these things don't bring us the peace we seek? This cycle of searching and dissatisfaction is a direct reflection of a disconnection with our spiritual values. Personal reflection is a powerful tool for dealing with these conflicts. When we stop to analyze our motivations and actions, we can identify areas where we are misaligned with our principles. Revelation encourages us to do this introspection. It is not just an account of destruction, but also an invitation to evaluate our lives and seek a deeper purpose. For example, the image of the black horse, which carries scales, represents not only external inequality, but also internal imbalance. We often prioritize certain areas of our lives, such as work or personal ambitions, while neglecting our emotional and spiritual health, or even our relationships. This imbalance leads us to a state of constant dissatisfaction, where we never feel complete, regardless of what we achieve. Recognizing these imbalances is the first step to finding peace. Spirituality provides a solid foundation for this, helping us realign our priorities and find meaning beyond the superficial. Revelation reminds us that true balance comes from connecting with the divine, from placing our faith in something greater than ourselves. Another important point is the need to practice forgiveness, both towards others and towards ourselves. The Apocalypse teaches us about redemption and new beginnings, reminding us that it is never too late to correct our mistakes and seek inner peace. When we carry resentments, they become weights that keep us from joy and fulfillment. In the end, the internal conflicts we face are opportunities for growth. Just as Revelation presents a vision of chaos followed by renewal, our personal battles can lead us to significant transformations. They challenge us to be honest about who we are, to confront our flaws, and to seek a more authentic version of ourselves. These moments of introspection are fundamental to building a more meaningful life. They allow us to let go of what no longer serves and embrace a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. After all, true purpose lies not in the absence of conflicts, but in the way we choose to face them and what we learn along the way. The Book of Revelation, often remembered for its images of destruction and judgment, is actually one of the most powerful texts on hope and redemption. Amid the descriptions of chaos and tribulation, he offers a central message. Even in the darkest hours, there is a greater purpose guided by divine love and the promise of renewal. This duality is what makes Revelation such a deeply inspiring work. Hope emerges vibrantly in the passages that talk about the New Jerusalem. This city, described as resplendent, adorned with precious stones and illuminated by divine glory, is a metaphor for redemption and restoration. More than a physical place, it symbolizes the end of suffering, the triumph over trials, and the full reconnection between God and humanity. It is the promise that, after the storm, there is eternal peace waiting for those who persevere. Throughout the narrative, we are reminded that redemption is not something imposed, but a choice. Each of us is invited to reflect on how we live our lives and to make decisions that bring us closer to this greater purpose. This choice, however, is not easy. It requires sacrifice, humility, and courage to abandon what is fleeting and embrace what is eternal. Revelation encourages us to see every difficulty as an opportunity for growth, every mistake as a step toward learning, and every moment of pain as a prelude to healing. This message of hope and redemption is deeply relevant to the modern world. We live in times of uncertainty, marked by global crises, social conflicts, and a growing disconnection between people. Revelation reminds us that even when everything seems to fall apart, there is something greater at stake. Faith becomes an anchor in these moments, a strength that sustains us and helps us move forward, even when the path seems impossible. Stories of overcoming and transformation throughout history illustrate how hope can flourish even in the most challenging contexts. During World War II, for example, millions of people faced unimaginable horrors, but many found the strength in faith and love for others to resist. This human resilience is a reflection of the central message of Revelation. Darkness is never the end. She is just a passage. Furthermore, redemption is a concept that transcends the religious context. It is present in our daily lives, in the way we deal with our mistakes, how we forgive ourselves, and how we learn to forgive others. We all face times when we feel lost, but the message of Revelation reminds us that there is always a chance to start over. It is an invitation to leave the past behind and build something new, a life guided by purpose and meaning. The idea of redemption also appears in the way we care for the world around us. In the apocalypse, chaos and destruction are, in part, a consequence of human actions. This message resonates strongly today when we face the impacts of climate change, the exploitation of natural resources, and social inequalities. Just as the New Jerusalem symbolizes restoration, we are called to work for the renewal of our world, caring for divine creation and promoting justice. Hope, in turn, is fueled by small daily actions. When we choose to love instead of hate, forgive instead of hold grudges, and share instead of accumulate, we are living the principles that Revelation values. It's not just about passively waiting for a better future, but about acting now to create the foundations of a more just and compassionate world. This vision of hope also challenges us to look within ourselves. Revelation talks about judgment, but not just as an external event. He invites us to evaluate our own lives, our values, and our choices. Are we living in line with our principles? Are we moving towards what really matters? These questions help us identify areas where we need change and inspire us to take action. The promise of Revelation is clear. Suffering and chaos are temporary, but love and redemption are eternal. This message is not just a comfort, but a call to live with purpose, trusting that our actions have meaning and that our lives are part of something much larger. When we accept this truth, we are able to face any challenge with faith and courage, knowing that, in the end, light will always prevail over darkness. The book of Revelation, despite often being interpreted as a text of judgment and destruction, is, above all, an invitation to spiritual transformation. His messages, full of powerful symbols and metaphors, not only describe future events, but also point to the importance of an active and conscious spiritual connection. It's as if each page asks us, are you living in accordance with the greater purpose that has been assigned to your life? This call to spiritual action is not just a message to the collective, it is deeply personal. She challenges us to reflect on the choices we make daily and to ask whether our decisions are aligned with values that transcend the material and ephemeral. In Revelation, this is symbolized by seals, trumpets, and bowls, which represent not only global events, but also the consequences of human choices, whether individual or collective. In a world marked by constant distractions and challenges, maintaining a spiritual commitment can seem difficult. We are surrounded by responsibilities, deadlines, and the pressure of meeting external expectations. However, it is exactly in this context that the message of Revelation becomes more relevant. He reminds us that spirituality is not a luxury, but a necessity. It is the foundation that helps us navigate life's uncertainties with purpose and clarity. Spiritual practice can take many forms. For some, it is through prayer, a moment of intimacy with the divine where we open our hearts and seek guidance. For others, it's through meditation, a practice that allows us to silence the chaos within and reconnect with what really matters. Whatever the path, the central message is clear. The spiritual needs to be a priority. Revelation also teaches us that spiritual action is not something passive. It involves not only introspection, but also concrete action in the world. When we look at the injustices around us, hunger, poverty, inequality, we are called to respond. Faith is not just a set of beliefs, but a force that must translate into compassion, generosity, and service to others. The text challenges us to be light in the midst of darkness, to offer hope where there is despair. This call to action also invites us to reflect on how we use our resources. Instead of accumulating possessions to satisfy momentary desires, we are encouraged to share, to build a positive impact on the world. This does not mean giving up comfort, but living with a greater purpose, where our possessions are tools to help, not simply to show off. Furthermore, Revelation highlights the importance of spiritual discernment. In a world full of conflicting messages, it's easy to get lost. Therefore, the practice of seeking wisdom through prayer or reading sacred texts becomes fundamental. It is through this continuous connection with the spiritual that we find the strength to resist external pressures and keep our values intact. Spiritual transformation is another essential aspect of this calling. The Apocalypse reminds us that it is never too late to start over, to abandon what takes us away from our purpose and turn to what really matters. Whether through repentance, forgiveness, or a change of attitude, there is always the opportunity to align our lives with what is eternal. This journey of transformation, however, is not something that can be done alone. The community plays a vital role in this process. Revelation emphasizes the idea that we are part of something greater, of a spiritual body that is strengthened in unity. This invites us to build relationships based on love, respect, and mutual support, values that reflect the essence of spirituality. The call to spiritual action in Revelation is an invitation to live with purpose and meaning. He challenges us to look beyond the immediate and build our lives on foundations that stand the test of time. It's not just about seeking a connection with the divine, but also about living in such a way that that connection transforms every aspect of who we are and the impact we have on the world. What are you doing today to answer this call? Maybe it's time to start or deepen your spiritual practice. Whether helping someone in need, taking time to pray, or simply reflecting on what really matters, every small step is a response to the timeless message of Revelation. After all, the greatest invitation we receive is to be agents of light and transformation in a world that needs it so much. Throughout this journey through the book of Revelation, we explore the depths of a text that goes far beyond prophecies and judgments. He challenges us to look within, to understand the world around us, and to find meaning even in the midst of chaos. More than a story about the end of times, Revelation is an invitation to reflection, transformation, and action. Every symbol, metaphor, and message in the text was not placed there by chance. They are there to remind us of something fundamental. What really matters is not just what we face, but how we choose to respond. It is a call to let go of what disconnects us from ourselves, others, and the divine, and to pursue a life guided by purpose and faith. The challenges presented in the prophecies of Revelation resonate with the crises of the modern world. The unbridled search for material goods, the division caused by internal and external conflicts, and the spiritual disconnection that so many experience are clear reflections of choices that need to be re-evaluated. Still, in the midst of all these difficulties, the text offers us something precious: hope. A promise that darkness is never the final chapter, but rather the bridge to something greater. Revelation teaches us that every moment, even the most difficult ones, is an opportunity. An opportunity to start again, to align our lives with what really matters, and to be instruments of change. He challenges us to live more consciously, to be more generous, more compassionate, and to find strength not in what we accumulate, but in how we share and serve. Now the choice is in our hands. How will we apply these lessons to our lives? What will we do with the gifts we have, with the time we have been given? Revelation reminds us that transformation begins with small actions, a gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, a decision to live with purpose. And perhaps that is the greatest message of all. The end, as we so often interpret it, is not a closure, but the beginning of something new. It's a chance to rewrite our history and contribute to a future where light prevails over darkness. And in the end, it's not just about the final destination, but the journey we take to get there. What will you do from now on? What choices will you make? This journey does not end here. It is just beginning. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for being part of this journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us to continue bringing important reflections like this one. And if you are curious to delve even deeper into this topic, don't miss the next video that is already waiting for you. Click now and continue this journey with us.